Welcome back, gang, to another Better Call Sexton. I am your host, James Sexton. Yes, I'm not wearing my lawyer costume today. It's at the dry cleaners, but we have a jam-packed docket for you today. We talk about none other than Tucker Carlson, the big TC, and what he's got to say these days about marriage and relationships. Yes, I'm not the only one out here talking about this stuff. We talk about the ShamWow guy and his next unexpected chapter. We talk about prenup wish clauses and what kinds of clauses we might want to put in a prenup. And then we talk about marriage advice to unmarried guys from married guys, thanks to a thread that was out there and went viral this week. We got all this and more. Let's get after it.
All right, Jim, we begin with Tucker Carlson, who I have to tell you, despite being a very polarizing guy, I feel like he's almost like having a moment where people are agreeing with him.
He's having such a moment right now because he's not as hyper partisan party line as he was. Like there was a period of time where he just sort of said the party line of what anybody said on the right. And then I think when he kind of got, excommunicated from that role, when he went against Trump at one point, I think that's when he was kind of let loose to his final form, which I think is what this is, which is he says some stuff that, the left agrees with, the right agrees with. Like he's kind of all over the map. I mean, he still leans heavily right and heavily conservative, but he's freed up a lot. I'll say that. And I know a lot of left-leaning people, myself included, who will listen to things he said and go, well, you can't argue with that. It's a pretty good point he's got there. So there's some things that I think it's great. I welcome when anybody who's been extreme on one side or the other starts to get kind of in the malcontent middle and starts throwing out ideas that the other side has to go, oh, yeah, he's got a point there. So I like that.
So this is an appearance from him on the Sean Ryan Show, another great creator.
That is a show I have not done. And there are very few that I go, oh, I think I would enjoy that show. I think I would enjoy having a conversation with Sean Ryan.
Oh, I think you guys would smash
Sean Ryan, Rich Roll. There's a couple of shows that I go, oh, I'd like to do that one. And that's one of them. So Sean's people, hit me up.
So Tucker discussing what he believes the key to a healthy marriage is. Let's roll this clip.
Okay.
You could distill it to one thing that makes a happy family, happy children. It's a wife's respect for her husband. They're like animals, they know, and they don't lie to themselves. A woman knows what a woman knows, and you can't dissuade her from it because she can smell it. Anything.
Woman's intuition.
It's the realest thing there is.
I love the Interstellar music, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I also like this statement, women don't lie to themselves. I'm sorry? What was that? That's how have they found, that has not been my experience. Men lie to themselves, women lie to themselves, humans lie to themselves. But yeah, look, I don't think that this is Tucker's necessarily original thought. I mean, Sadia Khan has been saying this for a long time, that respect is the number one thing for men. And that if a woman disrespects a man, that exit visas are imminent, that's really the demise of the relationship. So I know he said this, very recently. I don't know if that parallel thinking. I don't think that this is such an outrageous thought that only one of them could have thought it and stole it from the other. But look, I think this is a very valid point that I've talked before about disrespecting your partner, period. I think men and women, by the way, both don't.
Yeah,
don't
I feel like he's coming from a gender angle here. And it probably does matter more to men, but I do believe
it does matter more to men. I think that men have more, I don't want to say fragile egos because I don't mean it from a critical place. I think women have fragile egos in different ways. But I think that men are uniquely bad at absorbing criticism. Before the cameras rolled, we were talking about, in the comments when people like roast things I say or the way I say things or mannerisms of me. And I said, oh, wow, we should like do a whole episode where we just like dive into those. And you're like, oh, would you be comfortable doing that? I was like, of course. Like, I don't take myself that seriously. I think that that's maybe a function of age. I think age has a way of humbling you. When you need to put on your reading glasses to read the comments, you can't sort of feel like you don't feel like Superman anymore.
If you got to put on your readers to read the comments, you shouldn't be on.
Then don't be worried about it. I think it was, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Russell Crowe. It might have been, I don't remember who it is. I don't want to misattribute it, but there was a celebrity he was going through something in his marriage and people were like writing a bunch of things. And what he did is he posted on Twitter, if you have a problem with the way I'm conducting myself in my marriage, please don't post about it online. Text me on my cell phone. And if you don't have my cell phone number, why would I give a what you think about what I'm doing in my relationship? Like, and I thought that was a very well said comment, because look, if you don't actually know somebody, like, who cares what their opinion of that person really is? But yeah, I think disrespecting your partner, man or woman, is just the first sign of things going down. I think that it is so emasculating for a man. It is so harmful to how a woman feels about you. I think we should be building our partners up and cheering for them. And even when they get it wrong, we should find ways to sort of parse our correction or our suggestions to them in a way that it's really for their own benefit and that isn't so critical. But I think taking the piss out of your partner in front of other people, man, there is nothing more toxic than that. You might as well slap them in the face. It'd probably be less hurtful than really jabbing at them. So, you will hear me now say something I don't often say. Tucker Carlson is right. I think he's right about that one.
While we're in the political sphere right now, big announcement running for Congress. The ShamWow guy.
I mean, imagine that's who you are. Like, we all know who we were talking about, the ShamWow guy.
Like, one of the more recognizable faces from our era will be infomercial. Billy Mays, the ShamWow guy. And you know what? The infomercial's kind of dead. It's like, it's all just been replaced by
a function in network
Instagram
television.
Accounts and things of that nature. But these people used to sit down for what, a half hour and just watch somebody use a product or a service.
Or watch the Girls Gone Wild one. Not that I ever watched that whole one.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even
know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I mean, this is what, it was an oeuvre. This was a whole genre of television. And I always kind of loved them. Because they were just like the Real Housewives shows are now. Like, they had a pattern to them. They had like a imagined problem, of like there's got to be a better way, and then like the person would be like, there is, and it's always some problem that isn't real.
Do you have a hole in the bottom of your boat?
And like someone was putting on their watch and they'd be like, oh God. Like, it was like the watch was attacking them, and they'd be like, are you still trying to put on your watch the old fashioned way? And you're like, ugh. Like, the guy always looked like there was something seriously wrong with him. And then they'd be like, now the smiling color version, putting on the whatever slap wrist, or I don't know, whatever the product was. It was always, there was something quasi-religious to it. Like my mentor from NYU, Neil Postman, had actually an essay in a book of his called Conscientious Objections called The Parable of the Ring Around the Collar. And it basically was about how advertisement is largely religious.
Wow.
That it was like, that like, like you've fallen from grace. You've got a ring around your collar, from where your sweat was. But salvation is available to you. And instead of falling to your knees and swearing your devotion to Jesus or Allah, what you have to do is you have to get tied with bleach, and it's salvation. And then at the end of the commercial, the person is saved and you see them with their clean collar. And I really think there's something like that to all of these infomercials. It was all like, you are the fallen. You're not, I've said it before, advertising is the opposite of therapy. It's the opposite of therapy. If the purpose of therapy is to instill a sense of wellness in you, advertising is the opposite, because the core message of every advertisement is you are not okay. You're not okay. There's something wrong with you, but it could be fixed.
For 4 easy payments of $19.99.
Exactly, thanks to Klarna or whatever. It can be for 15 payments of blah, blah, blah. Like that is always the message. The message is never you're fine. You're fine the way you are. You don't need anything. You don't need to do anything. It's the opposite of therapy in that regard. And so I think the infomercials were just Sunday services, man. It was it was like black church for people who are insomniacs.
Isn't there something so funny too about like, I don't really need to dry things off, but goddamn, that chamois works really well.
Well, there's something magical.
That slap chop, like I can cut the onions. I don't even cut onions, but if I do, I want to dice them like that.
It looked magical. It looked like something that you're like, I want to get that just to see. I remember there was one for like a food dehydrator. And they had you convinced that like, oh my God, this will like save you more money and time. Then you're like, well, who's going to eat that much dehydrated fruit? And do you know how much fruit you need to make like a bag of dehydrated fruit? It's a staggering amount of fruit. So it's a wildly inefficient way of doing it. But listen, man, like somebody made a lot of money on this shit. So God bless. I don't think it was the ShamWow guy though.
And now it'll be a congressman, perhaps. I mean, he has.
I mean, listen, how unqualified? Like,
listen, Jim, he did punch a prostitute in the face, which to me is like a prerequisite.
Who among us has not at some point?
How many politicians haven't had a prostitute scandal?
I'm sure he had a good reason for punching that prostitute. No, Allegedly. No, listen, I didn't know about the punching the prostitute in the face, but I mean, does that automatically preclude someone from being in Congress? Probably not. Probably not.
Not nowadays.
Not nowadays. I think that, crime is legal. And okay. I mean, generally you want to reserve your crimes to more white collar kind of crimes, like financial crimes is probably better than punching sex workers. That's probably, you avoid that.
On the political front, though, I do feel like we went overboard, as we tend to do as a society, but I think there would be some merit in non-lifelong politicians getting into politics and bringing some quote-unquote normalcy to it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
Boy, do we go the other direction with reality shows and the ShamWow guy.
Yeah, we went with like holy. So, a bunch of my progressive liberal friends, when Trump was running again, said, oh, we should run like Oprah. And I remember saying, like, how about we run someone who's qualified for office?
Right. The Rock is another one. I would vote for The Rock. No, why would you do that?
Why? I don't know. I see, and maybe, again, this is my age showing. I liked the feeling that the president was way smarter than me. Like, I remember, like, looking at, like, presidents early on, like the first Bush, or, even Obama, and thinking like, this guy is so much better at a lot of stuff than me. Like, he's really, like, he's got a lot of knowledge, like even just history. Like if I like showed him a map, a blank map, and said, fill in all the countries, I feel like he could do it. And I know I couldn't. So I feel like there's a lot of value in having a president who's smarter than you. Ideally one who is kind of like wonky. Like I would like a boring politician. I would like a boring, measured I would like an Al Gore. Like someone who you ask them a question and they give you like a 25-minute rambling answer that covers both sides of the vision of things. Well, we need to do this, but also we have to make sure we don't do that. And there's a criticism that would suggest that. And you sort of sit there and go, okay, so this is clearly someone who can hold two competing ideas in their head at the same time. And they're probably going to be a good politician. John McCain was a good example of that. It's why I knew he was never going to win, because he's just too measured and balanced and too quick to want to talk about truthful things instead of what's going to make a good soundbite. Because all the debates are now is just like, I'm trying to cultivate a soundbite. And you watch them like try to set up the soundbite where they're like, well, he says it's a path to peace, but it's actually a path to the least. And you're like, dude, that was cringy bad. Like, that was awful,
I'll tell you what, you know who I would maybe vote for?
This guy.
James J. Sexton.
I know.
You could at least, I don't know about the actual work, but you play the part.
Never happen.
You could do it though.
I have the wardrobe.
You could do it.
I have the wardrobe.
You got the speech. You could debate. You could do the speech.
I'd be very good at politics. Yeah, I'd be very good at it. I would be better at it if I just like picked a character and was like, I'm just going to be this guy. I'm going to be that guy. Like that would be easier, because then it'd be like being in court where it's like, I've decided who the good guy is and the bad guy is, whether the truth gets in the way or not. And but I would never do it. I can't stand politics. I think
you got to be insane to do it.
I just couldn't do it. I did way too many drugs when I was younger, and I have too many ex-girlfriends. There's just too much out there that it would be very harmful to my. But who knows? I mean, who knows if it would be harmful? It will never happen, folks. You will never. I'll sign whatever pledge you need me to. That I will never run for office.
If I had a crystal ball, and I could tell you with certainty that there is this alternate universe where you did run for president and it worked.
President?
Yes. You became president. It worked. Your views about trying to instill, don't fight people, fight ideas, all these idealistic things. Yeah. It worked and you made the world a better place. Yeah. Would you do it?
Well, I mean, with that hypothetical, like I'd be a real asshole.
But you're giving up. Yeah, but you're giving. It's like something you hate and don't want to do, but it will be good for the people.
I mean, look, I tend to believe, in a very Spock-like way, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, and I think that I liked it when a characteristic of masculinity was the idea of self-sacrifice. So the idea that like giving up your life for a worthy cause, or giving up your happiness so that a large number of people could find happiness, or that your society could thrive. Like, I'd like to think I love America more than I love Jim Sexton. I think that that's the goal, isn't it? I mean, why is that such an odd thing now? Like, there were how many people in World War II who loved their country more than they loved their life and were willing to give it up in the pursuit of stopping a madman from taking over the world? Like, I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. And there was a time where that was the default setting for masculinity. So now to have like the majority of people go like, yeah, I mean, America's flawed, but I wouldn't lose my life for it. There's nothing more important than my individual life. I don't think that that's, you know, that's something to aspire to. So yeah, of course, like would I resign myself to a career that I have absolutely no desire to do and a drudgery if I knew that it would make the world a objectively better place? Absolutely. Like I would hope anyone would. Do I think that me being president would make the world an objectively better place? I do not. I do not think that. I don't think that I have the skill set for it. I think politics is at best the systematic organization of human hatred. And I think at worst, it's just a game and a show. And I think that in its current iteration, it is nothing more than trying to tear down the ideas of the other party without having an agenda or having anything that, like, it's all about problem identifying now and tearing down the other side's attempts to solve problems, not positing your own solutions to those problems. So I think that it's just a machinery now that's just so corrupt to the core. But I don't think I'm the outcause for that. I think I think dialogue is the outcause for that. I think a free press is the outcause for that. I think we are amusing ourselves to death, and I think we are unfortunately only interested in politics insofar as it's blood sport. So I think we have to find a way to make difficult topics at least interesting enough that people will stay tuned. So
Matt, you see what I just did there? We just soft launched Jim's political career.
Wow.
He doesn't know it. He doesn't realize it. But there are people who are going to look at that clip, that 60-second speech right there, and they're going to go,
"No way!
Hey, this is the guy. He doesn't want to do it, but we need a guy like him."
God, dude, then edit all that out, Matt, because I got to tell you, that is
bingo.
It is not happening, man. It is not happening. I used to always tell people, I was like, because people were like, "Oh, you should run for judge, or you should run for this political office." I was like, I'm just going to buy all the politicians I need. Thanks.
I was going to say, you like money too much.
No. Money changes things more than being a politician does. Like, you can buy all the politicians you want. Like, politicians are servants to the donor class.
Yep.
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And when they made judicial elections a popularity contest in New York State, like they did not like, "Ooh, we're going to get the best and brightest people on the bench." No, we're going to get people who win a popularity contest. And that's people that are good at raising money. And that's people that are good at being liked by a large group of people with dissimilar interests. So what do you think you're going to get there? You think you're going to get the absolute best and brightest? Probably not. But we do sometimes, but it's a coincidence.
No, I don't think it's politics for you, but what I do think your lasting mark on this world is going to be when it's all said and done.
My adult film career. Listen, some of those guys were really sweet to me. That's all I can say.
I would say, though, legitimately, I think the democratization and the rise in popularity of prenups is going to be.
I think so.
Your lasting mark.
I think I will go down as a prenup evangelist.
Yes.
I think that I changed the discourse on that. I was the first person. I'm now hearing everybody say it, but I think I was the first person to say that every marriage has a prenup.
That truly resonated with me.
Every marriage has a prenup.
Do you want the government in your relationship?
It's either written by the government or it's written by the two
wow.
people who allegedly love each other, other than the 8 billion other options. Like, I think that phrase, I am now hearing tons of people say, well, you know, it's kind of like every marriage has a prenup. And it's great. You don't even have to give me attribution. I don't get like paid when people say that. That will, I think, be my legacy.
That is
pointing out. That is the fish who discovered the water. I am pointing out the very obvious thing that every marriage has a prenup. And it's, you know, it is very funny when you point out something obvious and people think it's wisdom. You know, Billy Joel in an interview once said that when you are surrounded by mediocrity and you're competent, people think you're exceptional.
Ooh, Billy Joelism.
And Billy Joel, like, he was talking about like that he's not that great of a piano player, but like there's not as many people playing the piano anymore, you know, basically. And so he was saying like, oh no, people think I'm exceptional, but I'm actually just sort of, you know, competent, you know. And I think that some of the things I pointed out, I used to joke that my book should be called like Advice I Pulled Out of My Ass, because it feels to me like very obvious and self-evident, but you know, sometimes it's just putting a good shape to something that people were thinking. Like it's like not as revelatory as it is I'm giving word to something that other people are like, ooh, that, the way that he said like that, I didn't have the words for it, but that's something I've thought before. And I think that is, has value. So.
I think that's also kind of what politicians do.
I don't know. See, politics are, you know, it's the old saying, if you enjoy law or sausages, do not spend any time figuring out how they get made.
Yeah, that's the fact.
Like, that's not something you want to see.
But on the prenup front,
a
lot of people are now discussing it and saying, what should I put in my prenup?
Yeah.
And I myself do this, and I ended up coming up with a couple funny, quirkier, lighter side of the prenups. something that I'm calling the crayon clause.
Crayon clause.
For instance, if I were to get married, my prenup would say, you cannot pronounce it crayon. It's crayon.
Crayon.
Right? You can't say nuclear. It's nuclear.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you're talking to the guy who says each other and gets pilloried for it.
Maybe that'll be in the prenup against you.
It could be.
I would say men have to admit when they have fallen asleep. Why do when you say
I'm resting my eyes?
Why do we say that? I do it every time. I think of it as
I think we want her to think that we still have situational awareness.
Yeah, like it's a weakness.
If there was
almost
an intruder in the home, we would be
right.
I think we all like to fancy ourselves that like we could sleep sitting up, and that we would, like we all have that. Jim Jeffries has a great bit about like when you have your gun in your gun safe, and like you have this image in your head that you'd be like, oh, you just wait right there, buddy, and you're gonna go, God, what's your birthday again? Like it really is. Like we all like to think we're like Navy SEALs, but meanwhile we're utterly helpless a lot of the time. So.
I would say men have to admit when they're sleeping. Mm-hmm. Women have to admit when they're hungover.
Okay.
They're always, I have a stomach ache or I caught a bug. No, you drank 13 high noons last night.
I was going to say, 13 high noons. That's self-harm. That is, Jesus. I would say that they have to admit when they're hungry.
That's a good one too.
That's one. They have to admit when they're hungry. They have to admit when they want dessert. I think that has been my experience of the fairer sex.
Order something because you're going to eat off
fries?
mine.
No, I don't want fries. And then you get fries and they eat your fries and you're like, what if you wanted fries? But they want, it's just like dessert. Like they want you to order dessert. We should get dessert. Oh, okay. I could have a bite of something. And then it's like, okay. So you just kind of go, look, what looks good to you? Like you have to, but men like, part of the fun of it is decoding the opposite sex and figuring out the life hacks around that. I mean, is you don't do like, do you want dessert? She's never going to say yes. You go, I feel like we could do a little something sweet. Do you want a little bite of something? Well, I guess I could have a bite of something. And then if she eats half of it, you don't go, Jesus, I guess you didn't want dessert. Like, do not say that out loud. That's like say, what I would say in a prenup if I was a woman, I would put in that you'll never tell me to calm down.
Ooh, or you're being crazy.
In the history
you
of
can't
calm,
say crazy or calm
is it
down.
that time of the month?
Ooh, baby.
Is it that time of the month? Are you kind of, like these are things that I think a woman could include those safely in a prenup.
But this is where the prenup should be a balance, right? Like, okay, that's for you. And then my side is, leave me alone during that month, during that week of the month.
Yeah, leave me alone during that week. Or acknowledge it.
Right.
Just acknowledge it. Let me, if you have one of those apps, give me the app. Like, so I know, like, okay, this is the time where I should bring her salty snacks and like be like, you're so pretty. Like this is the week where it's just like, okay, I can expect that she's going to just, molest me in a good way. So yeah, those are all, I think there's lots of good, I think that, listen, I actually think people could leverage prenups in better ways. I mean, you could put in some things about your sexual habits that you want to try to aspire to. I tell clients all the time, you can put aspirational stuff in a prenup.
Go say more. What do you mean?
Well, I just think that a conversation about a prenup is a conversation about what's important to you in this relationship. What do I want to preserve in this relationship? What do I want to extinguish? And what do I want? all kidding aside, what did we just talk about? We just talked about things that we find are present in relationship that we either want to preserve or we want to extinct in some fashion, right? So some of the things we named are just like cute foibles that, that women do or that men do, and that's fine. You wouldn't want to get rid of it. It sort of gives some texture to the polarity of the sexes. I think that's a lovely thing. It's what we like about each other. But I think there are some things that we might approach differently. Like we might say, there should be a code for when we're not going to have this conversation right now. Whether it's because your hormones are in a place where you don't want to have this conversation, or whether it's because I've had a long day at work, or whether it's because I'm in a bad mood and now's not the time. And it should just be some benign phrase, like, how about them Mets? That if one of us says it, we go, okay, that's a timeout. And you get a certain number of timeouts.
It's like a safe word for a relationship.
Yeah, like a safe word for a relationship. I think it's a great way of putting it. It's a way of essentially saying, hey, for whatever reason, now is not the time to have this conversation. And again, like timeouts, you only get a certain number of them. Mm-hmm. But everybody should get one in good faith, because it might be that, hey, let's not do this right now, because if we do it right now, it's not going to go well. So I think something like that might be useful. I think, again, if you talk to a lot of married people and they're being honest about where there are problems, a lot of times the pinch points are around sex, or around spending time together, or around paying attention to each other, having a kind word for each other. So I think that having a conversation about, hey, again, I go back a lot to the idea of, when do you feel loved by me? That's a huge conversation to have, because I might think I'm treating you with love, and love is a verb, right? So love's a feeling, but love's a verb. So like loving someone isn't just what you feel about them, it's things you're doing for them. It's acts of kindness, acts of service. It's the things that you do for them, say to them. It's a verb. So I think putting that in a position where you say to this person, hey, when do you feel loved by me? And when do you feel less than loved by me? Because if you love someone enough that you're marrying them, you would think you want them to feel loved as often as possible, and you want to minimize how often they feel unloved by you or less than loved by you. So why not have that conversation and find out what it is? Because I think a lot of women, this constant battle of the sexes, of the guy wants more sex and the woman's like not giving out as much sex as she used to when they were first dating. Very common trope. They made films about it. This is something we all know. So I'm not giving anything away here. And I will tell you, as a divorce lawyer, listening to people, like men constantly talk about sexual dissatisfaction being a key reason as to why there was infidelity, or reasons why they felt the marriage fell apart and the wheels came off, is that there was a physical disconnection. And most of the women, when you talk to them about that, will say, yeah, he stopped being nice to me, stopped being kind to me, stopped complimenting me. Why would I want to sleep with him? Like, he was incredibly selfish when it came to sex, whatever it might be. So again, it's this disconnection that we didn't start out that way, or else why the hell would we marry each other? So it's a question of, what do we want to do to maintain a level that feels good for both of us? And how will we signal to each other when there is some smoke that could eventually be a fire?
You can do all of this at trustedprenup.com.
You can do all this at trustedprenup.com and more. You can also do it at trustedpetnup, but none of the sex stuff, because you shouldn't be having sex with your pets. That's something I think we can all agree on.
That should be in everyone's prenup.
Everyone's prenup. No sex with the pets.
But what you just said a second ago segues nicely to the final topic here. And, you said if you speak to married people, they'll tell you XYZ. And this occurred on Threads over the holiday. Somebody said, married men, keep it 100. What's the one reality check us single guys need to hear before marriage? Not the cliche stuff, but stuff that nobody warns us about. And it got, hundreds of comments, actually thousands of comments.
Yeah.
Some of them, stop watching porn. Being broke can break your relationship because a lack of money breaks a man's confidence. Can other married people give you advice if a relationship is such a singular thing? Can you even really rely upon other people's advice, because every two people are different?
I don't think you can take it as gospel truth for your relationship, but I think some of the advice that got thrown out there was pretty useful. I think that some of it is a fairly general concept that is true in any like pair bond between two people that's meant to sustain. I think some of the advice that was put out there of like, your wife's not your mom. That's solid advice. I don't think that that's unique to a particular marriage. Again, are there marriages where there is a higher level of caretaking, where a woman finds it very satisfying to be a caretaker to her spouse, and where a man might enjoy having a woman who cares for him in some maternal kinds of ways? Sure, I'm sure there's some dynamics like that. It's not my cup of tea, but hey, listen, everybody gets to be, in relationship what suits them. So I think that you can't extrapolate all of these pieces of advice into all marriages, but I think there's some genuinely constructive advice in here, like stop watching porn. I don't know that that's true for every single person, but I don't think that's bad advice in general, life advice. I think that there's a massive amount of information out there about how much pornography impacts the manner in which we relate to sex. It impacts our thresholds in terms of sexual satisfaction and what we require to be aroused. And, it certainly escalates in terms of the things. Like I heard a comedian, I apologize, I don't remember who it was. So I would attribute to him if I could remember, but he said in sum and substance that if you're going to watch something on Pornhub, you should have to read the title of it out loud. And 9 times out of 10, you would log off and just call your mom. Because if you were like, like stepsister gets destroyed. Oh God, I can't say that out loud. But there is something about how easy it is to click on these escalating levels. And all of us, every heterosexual man out there who's gone onto one of those websites and suddenly turns around and goes, how did I get in this corner of the internet?
Yeah.
Because you were just sort of escalating in terms of what you were looking at. Because again, the stimulation, you need more and more and more. And the next thing you know, you've had 14 high noon seltzers, the pornographic equivalent of it.
I've seen so much anti-porn stuff that it's I don't think I have an issue, but I'm like, maybe I should, because a lot of people
the proliferation of it has really gotten, it's so accessible all the time now. And I think it's impacted the way that we perceive. I think it's generational. It's not my generation. And maybe not even yours.
It probably started with mine.
Yeah,
and then
I think
right
the
after.
people in their 20s now, and they were educated on sex by porn, and that is really bad because it's just not what sex really looks like. And now what we're doing is we're imitating porn in our actual sex. And the question is that leading us to mutually fulfilling sex? And generally the answer is no. So I think that the more we study this, there were some great conversations Andrew Huberman had about this with some people. There's a lot of really good stuff. Again, I know I'm like a Louise Perry hawk, but I'm loving her stuff. That book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, she talks a lot about pornography and about its impact on society and on men in particular. And I think anyone who's interested and concerned with men's issues has to be concerned about this issue. I think that Dr. K has done some great writing and speaking on this. There's a lot of really, really intelligent people talking about the impact that the proliferation of pornography, it's not pornography itself, it's the arms race of it. It's the accessibility of it. It's the violent, volatile nature of what's out there now. I mean, I think we can all agree that like it is not like they like the women in it. Like it's really, really gotten intense. And I don't know that that's what any of us want to aspire to in our actual sexual relationships. So I think that there is cause for concern, and I'm glad that there are people looking at it. But I think in a marriage, you know, that feeling deep connection to your primary sexual partner as your sexual partner is really, really important, which is why I'm a big fan of people in committed monogamous relationships or marriages sending nudes to each other or doing like sexualizing each other. I think that there's value in sexualizing your sex partner. Like I think that, you know, your partner wants to be loved and respected and objectified. You know, like I think that you want that. Like you want this person to go, yeah, I love you and I think you're smart and you're brilliant, but I also really just find you an object of desire. Like I don't know a woman who wouldn't want to hear that. You know, I think I mentioned the other day that I had seen a meme that I thought was very clever that said, you know, it was a text exchange between a man and a woman, and he said, you know, I respect you, right? And she said, yeah, why do you ask? And he said, because when I get there for the first 20 minutes or so, it's going to seem like I don't. And I thought, I don't know a lot of women that wouldn't like that text. And I don't know a lot of men that wouldn't get a kick out of sending that text. Like I think the reality is that is part of our dynamic. But I don't think any of us wants to feel like what pornography makes sex look like is really not an indication of the kind of sexual relationships we probably really want.
Some of the other pieces of advice here I want to run through. Date a woman for at least 4 to 5 years before you pull the trigger. Most marriages I've seen fail. The proposal happened within the first 2 years. Any merit to that?
I look for these trends all the time. I don't know that engagement of that duration is something that guarantees success. I haven't seen a lot of, you know, engagements that were that duration, so that could be an indicator that is good advice. I don't know. What you'd have to do to study any of this is like you'd have to study the marriage satisfaction rate versus the divorce rate versus, you know, the duration of the engagement. So I think it's kind of tricky. But I think that's a really long time to ask somebody to just sort of be around if in fact they're marriage minded and they want to get married.
And probably depending on age too.
Yeah. I think there's biological clock element to that, but I don't know that it takes 4 years to figure out who you're with if you're looking honestly. I think that, you know, of course, early on in a relationship, we have rose colored glasses and all the red flags just look like flags. But I think that there is value in being with somebody when they're sick, being with them away on vacation, being with them through something stressful, being with them through a death in their circle, you know, see how people grieve, see how people are when they're angry, see how people are when they're sick, see how people are when they have a situation that's out of their control and how they respond to it. All of which are things that are going to happen during a marriage or a long-term relationship and might test it. So I think there's value in that.
For best results, date around. Do you think that people have to sow their wild oats, or if you get married when you're 22, does that equally work out as much as the person who's 42?
My hot take on this is I think that people should have a phase where they date a bit and they date a couple different, because I think otherwise it creates this idealized other in their head of what it would be like if they dated someone different than the person who they end up settling down with. I think there's some value in kind of getting a flavor of the different things that are out there before you decide on, you know, what car you want to buy. I think you should drive drive a couple of different ones. Like I'm always astounded how quickly people commit to things. You know, people come in and do a consultation with me and they'll be like, okay, I want to hire you. And I'm like, well, you know, have you spoken with any other lawyers? And they're like, no, I want you. And you're like, why don't you talk to a couple other lawyers and see if you like their communication style as compared to mine and the way they answer questions as compared to me. And, you know, like just, it's okay. Like I'm not, you know, I would never want to be someone's like first. I think that you should kind of, you know, have experiences out there so that you have something to compare it. How else would you know how awesome I am if you haven't had other experiences? So I think that there's value in having people have other experiences. So I think dating around is probably a good idea. Again, do I think, like anything else, you could numb yourself out by having too many experiences and too much diversity that could lead to a craving for more diversity and variety and increase your levels of sociosexuality? Yeah, it's possible. Again, everything that is virtue could be vice if it's taken too extreme.
I would say the one piece of advice that is very obvious, but I think really needs to be taken to heart, and I guess this is more, shouldn't come from married men, but more divorced men, is getting married because you think it's the right time of life. I think a lot of people are susceptible to that. I'm late 20s, I'm early 30s, good enough, let's do it. And that is not a good idea.
I would extrapolate that even to a broader principle, and that is that your life should be by design, not by default. I think you should design your life. Like it's your life. You get one of them. Like maybe the Tibetans are right and you get more than one, but you only get one that you're going to remember. So like I genuinely believe that there's value in designing your life. And I don't think you should design it based solely on peer pressure exerted by dead people. I don't think it should be based on what was right for your friend or your cousin. Again, is there wisdom in those things? Of course. I think other people's experience could be a teacher for us. I think tradition can be a teacher for us. I think there's a lot of value in having, you know, a 360 view of things. But there's also such a thing as choice paralysis. And especially now with the internet, like whatever you believe, there's someone that's going to tell you that you're wrong. And there's someone that's going to agree with you. Whatever, how insane your belief is, guarantee it. So you do eventually have to just sort of hear your own voice and then learn to trust your own voice when it comes to some of this stuff. And I genuinely believe that having a diversity of perspectives presented to you and then making some choices, like don't let choice paralysis take over. And definitely do not just get married because, well, you know, we got to a point, that's what you should do. And I don't want to disappoint this person. Like you're going to disappoint them much, much worse if you marry them for the wrong reasons.
I think this is a Sextonism. I'm not sure if it's totally original, but I've heard you say tradition is the wisdom of previous generations, but also peer pressure by dead people.
Yes, that is a Sextonism.
That hit me hard because I was so, and I think there's a lot of people like me. I was like, I just want to be normal. I'm going to get the normal job and get married at the regular time and have the kids. I'm nothing special. And maybe sometimes I should have been like, I'm a little bit different here and a little bit different there.
Totally. And it's totally... in no way am I ever suggesting that that is not a natural. We are social animals. We are social creatures. We desire to be similar to our peer group because it makes us feel like we are within the in-group. I mean, this is why this is such an inherent trait in middle school. Like everybody wants to be wearing the same thing and doing the same thing. And then there's this phase that you start to go through where people want to individuate and they want to express who they are individually. And I think that learning how to identify the voices in your head is really important. Like, is that my mom talking or is that me? Is that my religion talking? Is that me? Is my culture talking or is that me? What parts of me are made up of those things and sees value in the things that those people taught me? Because again, I don't think tradition is just peer pressure exerted by dead people. I think that tradition can be the wisdom of people who came before you and are further down the road than you. I think I have some wisdom to give to a guy in his 20s or his 30s or his 40s because I've been a guy in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s. They haven't been a guy in their 50s. So I have experiences they don't have. By the way, they also have life experiences that I don't have. So I have a lot to learn from when I have interns come in who are in their 20s. I have a lot to learn from them. They've had a different life experience than me. They've grown up in a different environment than me. They're going to see things differently without some of the biases that I have in my brain cognitively. So we all have a lot to learn from each other. But yeah, identifying that you might be different and what makes you happy might be different. Like there's a lot of people, you know, I think Mae West said that, you know, you could be the ripest, most delicious peach in the world and there's still going to be people that don't like peaches. Like there's things we don't like. I don't like egg salad. I hate egg salad. Okay. So sorry. You could make the best egg salad in the world. I'm going to hate it. I'm not going to want to eat it. That does not mean egg salad is bad. It does not mean your egg salad is bad. It just means I don't like egg salad. You can try to convince me it's high in protein. It's millions of people like it. You're not going to convince me to feel differently than the way that I feel. That's just, it's wired in me. That's how it is. So I think identifying who you are and becoming yourself is the hardest task, but it's really the only task that really matters. And marriage, ideally, can help you become the best version of yourself, because I don't think I can learn everything I need to know about myself from myself. I need people who can see my blind spots and who believe in me and are cheering for me and will help me identify my blind spots and help me and believe in me and help me become the best version possible of myself. I've always said that if I have a wish for any married couple or any couple in a long-term relationship, my wish for them is that at the end of their life, that their partner looks at them and says, that person helped me become the most authentic version of myself. I can't think of a better blessing to offer someone at their wedding than I hope that you help each other become the most authentic versions of yourselves. I think that's the greatest gift we can give to another person.
No better way to wrap up the episode than that.
Such an optimistic note to end it on.
Nothing left to say.
Love that. Love that. Hey, that'll do it for today's show, folks. Remember to please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It really does help the channel, which is growing every single day, thanks in part to you. Also follow us at NYC Divorce Lawyer on Instagram and NYC Divorce Law on X. And please stay tuned. Remember to hit that notification bell, because we're up 3 days a week now, and you don't want to miss anything that we have to offer. But for now, we're adjourned.